Donna, do you want to just let them know that we're starting?
Okay.
Thank you. What? Oh, I know. Brenna wanted to come.
We're so close. Come on.
No, might be loud.
All right, I'll scoot my chair over. You want to sit beside me?
Just in case.
Find Alex, I need him.
Oh, Alex? Can somebody
I
get
need
Pastor Alex?
elbow
You need
room.
elbow room.
Yeah.
I gotta be quiet.
Can I sit by my buddy?
Oh, you could.
Well, it's by you, but you need to eat behind you.
Oh, man.
Oh, I think we did the last week.
What's that, eat?
Those people are looking great. Yeah. Is it okay? They just go in, they just pay whatever they want.
Take care.
Should I get started? Or
I'm gonna make
is it
them
okay?
ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome everyone to our Lost Skills seminar or program. And we're doing Lost Skills. It's building skills for a happier, fulfilled future. And this is sponsored by the Edwardsburg Seventh-day Adventist Church. You know, many skills have been lost with the coming of the Industrial Revolution. People have been going to work in big factories, and the development of convenience foods and services has all contributed to these lost skills. This has led not only to our dependence on the system, but has also changed our lifestyle, and to the point where it affects our health too. We eat more processed foods. We get less exercise because we aren't growing our own food and things like that. And that can lead to diseases that can be prevented. Now, the purpose of the lost skills actively meet the needs of their household. You know, when families work together, it draws the family together. And when we learn these skills, we can do it together as a family. Not only that, it gives opportunity to teach children these skills. And often children can really take a hold of these skills, and they can be responsible for a lot of things and can help out the family. It also improves our health. Now, today we're going to be talking about pantry management, how to improve food security. And so I would like to have prayer first, and then we'll continue. Dear Father in heaven, I thank you for bringing us together this afternoon. I pray, Lord, that you will be with us, be with me as I speak, that I will have your peace, and I can express the knowledge that you've given me on pantry management, that others may be able to also be able to be independent and do more things for themselves. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. One thing that I want to say is at the conclusion of our presentation, we're going to have Q&A time. And we look forward to answering your questions then. Feel free to write your questions down as we go along. And in your folder, there's a 3x5 card, I think, tucked in there that you can write your questions down. Anybody need a 3x5 or need pen or anything like that? You got it all. Good. Our registration table's doing a great job. So, why have a pantry? Well, most often when, first of all, why have a pantry? One is to have staple supplies needed for meals and household products, to have them available also. Flour, sugar, salt, rice, potatoes, beans, or dried or canned, or other proteins or vegetables, and then household cleaning products. What I find when I have my pantry well stocked is that most often when I go to make a recipe, I look at the ingredients and I probably have pretty much everything that I need except one or two items maybe, and sometimes I have those, depending on whether it's fresh items or whatever. So if you're cooking from scratch, you will find that you can stock up on your basic ingredients. And really cooking from scratch, that's one thing I want to kind of bring up several times tonight, is cooking from scratch is when you're going to have less processed food, more healthful food, and you can also save money a lot. So, why have a pantry? Well, that's going to be several things. Save money. You can save money with less trips to the store. How many of you, maybe you're not like me, but when you go to the store, you see this or that, you do impulse buying. I try not to, but the more times I'm in the store, the more chance I get for impulse buying. And so it also saves money on gas, and it saves a lot of time because you end up spending time. Sometimes I'm right in and I need this and that and the other, and other times I browse. So it does save time when you don't go quite as often. Okay, so one other reason to have a pantry is saving money with quantity buying. Maybe some items are on sale. And once in a while you find a sale item, and boy, that's a pretty good price. And so you kind of stock up on it and you save it. And then other times is bulk buying, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more later. But this is just, this is my pantry, and it's downstairs in the basement if you can see the cement walls. But one of the things that I've done is these racks, I put them up on pallets, wooden pallets. So it's up off the floor, and it's been serving me very, very well. Another reason for a pantry is to have supplies for emergency situations, weather-related situations. We just had, a couple big storms this winter, and, if you have things in your pantry, you don't have to worry about running out and buying before the storm or even after. Also, supply chain related. I don't know why, last night, and I don't usually remember my dreams, but I had a dream, and I can't remember if it was Aldi or something like that. They had about a quarter of their store had any stock in it. The rest of it didn't have any. And I'm not, I don't fear that because I have a lot of what I need, And so that's one thing that you can, one emergency situation that can be taken care of. Another emergency situation would be family-related emergencies, whether somebody is sick, and had a sudden accident or whatever, a serious illness, and you have lost income with that. Or the other thing is sometimes some people go through a divorce or, relationship problems, and then, they don't have as much income and as much to eat. I want you to see this is not my pantry. This is off of a thumbprint from YouTube. But the story behind this pantry is that there was a single mom, a young single mom, had 3 or 4 kids, and she was on food stamps, and wasn't a lot, the EBT, and she decided that, I need to be stocking up for an emergency, but how am I going to do that? I get enough food stamps just to feed my family and whatever. She came up with an idea of, from Monday through Friday, she and her children would eat rice and beans and a piece of bread. Homemade bread. Rice and beans and a piece of bread. Every night, Monday through Friday. Breakfast, maybe they'd have a little bit of oatmeal, some oatmeal or something like that. That was cheap. And the children apparently were all in school, and so they got school lunches. So then on the weekend, they would have something more special, maybe some homemade pizza or something like that, and maybe some more vegetables. But, with rice and beans, you can get some onions or green pepper or whatever to put with it, season it up, and you can change it up a little bit here and there. And the rest of her food stamps, she started buying a few cans of this and a few cans of that. And she built a really nice pantry. Within 5 months, she had 6 months' supply of food. Now, of course, some of her relatives said, "You're not feeding those kids right." Well, guess what? Rice and beans, and of course, whole grain bread, that's a whole protein, And so they were probably doing better than they would normally. But they didn't have the sugared cereals and all that kind of stuff. But that was a really smart mother. And she had it looks like a lot of beans and, some, it looks like some cans of soup, and I don't know what all else there. But, that's a pretty good pantry. It was a 6-month supply. Now, oops, I'm sorry, one more thing here. Also, in having a pantry, you can make your own convenience foods. You don't have to buy the convenience foods, in the store, but you can make your own convenience foods. Maybe some home canned foods, and I don't think I brought my, I have spaghetti sauce, and I think that's one thing I didn't get. But I had a ton of green tomatoes this year, and I made green tomato curry. And it's very easy. We just had it yesterday for lunch. I take some tofu, marinate it, and then bake it in squares, cut it in squares and bake it. And then Yesterday, I did that ahead of time, and I put it in the refrigerator. And then I heated up the tofu with the green tomato curry. I guess I used a pint jar at that time, and I put 3/4 of a cup to a cup of coconut milk in with it. And it just was a lovely meal. Put that with some baked squash and some a salad, and it was a really lovely meal and very quick, very quick. So also you can make homemade mixes for like waffles or something like that, and I have that here. And I do want to tell you, as a bonus, in your handout, you have the recipe for this, okay? So I took a recipe from a cookbook, and I put all the, good morning, or good afternoon, come on in. I took a recipe from the cookbook, and I put all the dried ingredients in this little bag. I line up about 9 of them. I do 9 waffle mixes at the same time. And I just, the oats, put the oats in all of the bags, put the millet in all of the bags, the sunflower seeds, and on, till all the dried ingredients are in here. And then I put a little sticky note on the inside of my cupboard, cabinet door, right above my blender. And it tells me that when I make these, I have to put 2 cups of water into my blender, and a tablespoon of oil, and a teaspoon of honey, and a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I pour this in the blender, I blend it up, and I'm ready to make waffles. So it just makes it so much easier. You know, it's a whole lot better than buying a waffle mix at the store, because you have your whole grains in here. It's much more, it's healthier for you. So that's just something always easy to make, and we've enjoyed that for several years, doing that way. Okay, so another reason for Pantry is to try to keep rodents away and flying critters. You want to make sure that all your stuff is is all in containers. Me especially, because mine is in the basement, and we try to keep it clean and all that kind of stuff. But you just want to make sure that it's safe. Not only that, I've had a few leaks in a really bad rainstorm. My stuff is all safe in my buckets. And we'll look at those buckets after a little while. We'll also talk more about how to keep it safe from flying critters in a little bit. So another thing is having food to share with others for emergencies. It's really nice when somebody has an emergency to say, hey, I have this and I have this, and I can, help you out. And it's really nice to be able to do that. So how do you start? One thing is you need to determine your goals. How much of a supply do you need, and for what period of time? One is, what period of time? Do you want 3 months, 6 months? Some people go a year, but that's more people who are gardeners, and they're producing more of their own food, and they try to have a year's supply. But how many people are in your family? How much are you going to need for it? How often will you need to go shopping? And then how much space do you have for storage in a safe, dry environment? Some people in an apartment probably don't have as much room, but maybe they can put it in some kind of a tub or container, something that can slide under the bed or whatever. You can get creative, and in where you can store it. But again, you want to, if it's dry food, if it's things like millet or your beans or anything like that, I really like to have it in containers that are safe from any critters. Okay? We'll talk more about that also. Now, does stocking up fit your food and household budget, supply budget? Well, come up with creative ideas like this one lady, like I said, she was single mom on food stamps, but she found a way of stocking up a very nice pantry by saving money and buying an extra. And that's one of the things, I guess it comes later. You can buy a little extra here or there, and stock up that way. Will you be preserving some of your own food? Maybe something you grew in your garden or things like that. Put a plan in place. Start slowly with staples that are used regularly. Maybe it's having an extra bag of flour or an extra bag of sugar or, and then you buy another one until you have what you think you'll need for 3 months. The other things would be, canned goods or things like that. Buy a little bit extra. Shop sales or use coupons to be able to get extra food. Learn to do meal planning. This is one thing that is a challenge to me because if I write all the things down that I'm going to have in the week, something comes up and I want to switch it around and it frustrates me and whatever. But it's something that I want to try to learn, and in listening to some podcasts and some of the research that I've done, in a lot of this stuff, really, meal planning does help a lot. It helps in saving money. It helps in knowing what you have and being able to use it well to make another type of meal out of the stuff that you just had left over or whatever. So also plan a garden around your needs if you are gardening, or maybe you aren't going to supply all your stuff from a garden, but you decide on maybe tomatoes to can or whatever, just 1 or 2 things that you're going to try to do to increase your supply. Also, start watching for canning jars in thrift stores and garage sales and auctions. I watched at one of the thrift stores I've gone to, and one of them, they're selling them quart jars and even pint jars for $1 a piece. And I'm like, that's a little much. But, another one, they had them for 50 cents a piece for quart jars and 25 cents a piece for pint jars. That was a pretty good deal. One time that I really missed out, I had an uncle and aunt who lived in Berrien Springs, and I had done a lot for them and watching over them in their later years, and especially when emergencies came up and stuff. And their kids had come and were put together stuff for an auction, getting rid of their folks' place after my uncle died. And my aunt had to move away. And I in fact inherited a freezer, a big upright freezer from them. The kids appreciated things so much, they said, whatever you'd like. Well, I saw this huge amount of jars there. They were big canners, and all these jars were emptied, but they were, kind of ugly looking. They'd have to be scrubbed and everything. And I was working full time at that time, and I'm going like, oh, I really would like the jars, but I don't think I can do that. So all those jars, there probably were close to 200 jars. They went for $1. And I'm going like, oh. Nowadays, maybe they'd go for a little more after COVID, but that was a missed opportunity because I could have had them free even. Okay, so watch for good prices on canning jar lids, and just keep your eyes open in the stores you go to. Look out also for look for an outlet or bulk buying. And I put down 2 of them here, Country Life Foods and Azure Standard, and we'll talk a little bit more about those. And there's information in your handout on that too. Okay, now, safe storage for bulk items. You want to store bulk flours, grains, seeds, and etc., things that you get in bulk from the store or from any other place. They can have those weevils, the eggs of the weevils, the little flies that, pantry flies or whatever they call. But in order to avoid any of that, all you have to do is store them in the freezer for 7 days. After 7 days, it kills everything off. And if there were any little tiny eggs in them or whatever, it kills it off, and then you can store them regularly, and you aren't going to get those little flies. Okay?
What is regular storing? You store them regularly.
Wherever you put them, in whatever container they don't have to be in the freezer. Okay. Nuts and seeds store better in the freezer or an extra refrigerator. Reason being is they have oils in them and they can go rancid and stuff. Home canned goods are best kept probably in temps from 50 to 75 degrees in a darker room or a cupboard or something. You can store, they can go a little higher, of course. It's not that they're going to go really bad, but it's just better to have them a little bit lower temperature. What I like about my basement is in the wintertime it gets down to about 55. And I really like that. It works really well for my storage.
When you're storing them in canning jars, don't store them with the lids on them.
Don't store them what?
Don't store them with the rings on
Oh,
them.
right. Canning jars, you want to take the rings off after 12 to 24 hours. I usually do 24 hours. And make sure that they're sealed well. And you don't store them with the ring on it because it can probably give you a false security, when if it didn't really truly seal, then it would give you a false security.
And if it did not truly seal over time, then it would ferment in it.
Yes.
If the lid is still on it, it will eventually explode.
Explode, yes.
But if the lid is off, it opens at the weakest point.
Right.
At the seal.
Right. So you want to store grains, beans, seeds, and store-bought flour, etc., in sealed containers. Okay. Especially if you're going to have it in a place where I have it. If you're just in your cupboards, your store-bought flour should be fine. But your seeds, beans, and grains, they're better off in some kind of sealed container to make sure that no critters get in it, in case you have them. beans and grains store the longest. And I'll talk about how I store mine in a bit. And also you want to have a space for bulk household items, your toilet paper and your paper towels and your cleaning products that is in a safe place away from children. So storage ideas. One is glass jars. We have our glass jars for grains or for anything. I have some beans over here in glass jars. Let's see. Canning jars work really well with some of this. I don't always have a lot of canning jars available to use, but the big ones, I've had a few of those to be able to use. Also, 25 pounds of beans or rice. I've bought 25 pounds of garbanzos or lentils or black beans, and not yet. The 25 pounds, I put them in, I find somebody who works in food service, and I just got these, jars, and 25 pounds will be 2.5 to 3 of these, I think, if I remember right. Of course, label it. I'm the queen of labeling, using my labeler, and one of the things I want to tell you is, while I'm thinking of it, is the labeler. If you want the tape, it costs a lot of money. Well, look online, and with my labeler, it works just fine with aftermarket labels. And I got, instead of 4 for $40, I got 13 cartridges for about $27. So it really makes a big difference to look online. Okay. Also, to label the jars with the contents, yes. Or you can put, I've done it with permanent marker, or I've also done it with, you could put some tape on there and put your permanent marker if you're going to be switching it around and not putting the same thing in all the time. Vacuum sealers are a good storage idea for preserving food in the freezer. Things that, vegetables, or if people eat meat, they often put things like that in the vacuum sealers with those, comes with a roll of plastic to make bags, and you use the sealer, and it works out pretty well. Vacuum sealers can also be used with mason jars. You would have to, the ones that work best, probably the pint jars work, and quart jars, but when you start doing the half-gallon jars, they don't work as well. It doesn't suck out as much of it. But with your vacuum sealer, you can get an attachment that goes over the jar, and it then it has a tube that goes to the vacuum sealer, and you just press the button, and it sucks out all the air out from inside and seals it. And what it does is you can store that. Like my mother has put wheat in jars like this, and Meredith and Walter have too, other grains and nut seeds, I guess. And you vacuum seal it, and it stays even in hot weather. And my mother had it out on the balcony where it gets really hot, and in the winter it gets really cold. And the wheat has stayed just fine. So, so this is my pantry of a lot of things that I get by 25 pounds. And what I wanted to show you was, maybe I like something available that I can use quickly. I don't want to get into a big bag or whatever of nutritional yeast or of whatever. I want something that's really easily available, like my green split peas. I might get that by 25 pounds and have it in containers like this, but I have something really available I can pull off the shelf and use what I need and then refill that when I need to. So containers like this are available at Dollar Tree, or they have been. It's been a while since I've done these, but you should be able to find them different places. Okay, sources for storage containers. Food safe buckets are available at many bakeries and are now, they're selling them for $2 to $4. They found out they could make money on them. Money on their junk. So anyway, this is one that I got, and I have it labeled, of course. I got this at Apple Valley, I think, for $3. And it's hard when it comes with a lid, but those lids are hard to get off, just with your fingers and everything. They're really hard to get off. Can you see this, sir? Okay. So what I found was you can also get these, what they're called gamma lids, and you can see it's the green part of it here. And it makes a nice screw top. Now you can get into your bucket really nice, and it's just really, really easy. Now, when you get the gamma lid, you just get the green part here, and this is screwed onto it. And at first I tried putting it on that way. My husband says, why don't you take the lid out of it? And that gives this a little bit more stretchability, a little bit more. So it's easier to pop on, but it takes a lot of, I could only do 3 of these a day. My hands were hurting, so you won't want to do a ton of them at one time, but it makes it so much easier. And they come in different colors. What I found that I've ordered them from Country Life. I've ordered them from Azure Standard. I looked online last night or this morning, and if you just put in gamma lids, Gamma lids, for sale, you can find all kinds of places that have them. And they're usually about $8 to $12 a piece, depending on where you're getting them. They also have them available for these 2-gallon buckets. And, 2-gallon buckets, some places like Apple Valley, they're charging $2 for them. But Costco, I talked with them, they have them free right now. At least I don't know if they'll get the bug to charge for them, but you can get those free. Buckets like this, I get my peanut butter from Azure Standard in a 9-gallon or 9-pound bucket, and then I put it in my own jars, and it saves me money that way. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to. Okay. So I told you the smaller pouring containers you can find at Dollar Tree. Glass jars are available many places, but really don't forget your garage sales and your thrift stores and auctions even to look for glass jars, because they are kind of expensive when you're trying to buy canning jars.
Also, older people in your neighborhood,
Yes.
a lot of times they're willing to give them to you if they know you're going to use them.
Right.
They hold them until they find out that you're actually going to use them, and they'll give them to you for
free
It's on the
almost.
dollar, if not free.
Yeah, or your family members,
Yeah.
family members too. Okay, so long-term emergency storage. I'm just telling you about this because it is a dream of mine, but I don't know whether I'll ever have one. Freeze-dried foods store for 20 to 25 years in Mylar bags. They're very, very, they taste, when you rehydrate them, they taste just like what it would pretty much, if you fresh, okay? But home freeze dryers are very expensive. They are very useful, but they're expensive. And like $2,500 to $3,500. Of course, that's a dream, but I don't know. It'll probably always be a dream. If storing, now for long-term storage, if you're storing canned foods for a long time, like that beautiful pantry with all these canned goods, you do want to rotate them out sometimes, because I have had a store-bought can of some kind of fruit that started leaking because I'd stored it so long. Or a can of tomato juice that was stored a long time exploded. So just be aware of that. Rotate your foods out. Now, if you regularly use some of the same products, switch out the cans when you buy groceries. And then become more independent gradually. Learn to cook from scratch. That's one of the big things. If you aren't cooking from scratch, try to learn to cook from scratch. There are many people who can help you. I'm willing to talk with anybody for a lot of that stuff. Start small. First of all, learn how to grow some of your own food. Maybe even it's containers on the patio or something like that. But learning to grow your own food. Start small, with containers of growing your own food. Sorry about that. Learn to preserve some of your own food, and this can help with stocking up for full-time use or for emergencies. That's only one of two of my, and that I don't think it shows quite all of the cans. Only one of two of my shelves of canned goods and that I've canned myself. And it really does. We use that all year long, but then if we have an emergency, we have more of it too. So, some of our future Lost Skills classes, next month in March, we're going to be gardening. And I have to say, give credit where credit is due. That is Walter's garden right there. And it's beautiful. But we're going to be gardening. We're going to be, this coming month, we're going to be doing garden planning and seed starting. And then in April, we're going to be garden planting. In May, bread making, June, foraging, July, preserving and canning. Mostly, we're going to be doing mostly canning, maybe talking about freezing a little bit. And then August, we'll be doing survival skills, and September, car maintenance 101. And we'll keep going with other topics. If you have any topics that you feel would be interesting, let us know, and we will consider them. So help spread the word. We have some posters, and if some of you, Ruth Ann and some, get those posters, and if you want some posters, and also we have a smaller flyer that has all of these topics on it, okay? And you can take it home, and I'd like you, if you want some more, give to your neighbors, give to anybody you want to share this with. Because you can be some of our best advertisement. So, share with your local friends on social media, maybe. I don't do social media myself, but if anybody does social media and wants to share it with your local friends, that would be great, so that they can come. And also, let us know any improvements that would help meet people's needs. And on that little survey that was passed out a little bit ago, the post survey, if you could just write some of your comments there, that would be really great. And so that is the end, and we really thank you for coming. But first of all, let's do questions and answers. Anybody else have questions? James.
You said freeze drying is a good thing. If you freeze something and then put it in your dehydrator, does that accomplish the same thing?
No, it doesn't, because a freeze dryer pulls out the liquid from and it goes in a pump. The pump pumps it out of the freeze dryer. So it dries it much, much more. Dehydrated things are still, some things can get crunchy, but other things are more chewy and stuff like that. Freeze-dried is like crackers. It's really crunchy. If you want to try some freeze-dried fruit or something like that, I think Dollar General usually has some, in little packages that are like $1 or whatever, and it's really good. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah, you
Kevin.
said these were free at both Costco's and Dollar Tree, or which one?
No, the 2-gallon bucket there is free at Costco,
At Costco.
in the bakery section.
And then something else at Dollar Tree?
Dollar Tree is where I got these pourable containers, like this, or like this. The lids snap off on this one, but it's pourable here, you can just, and these are what I put some of my stuff in to have it more accessible to me.
Now, do you think plastic storage containers, there's these containers that are kind of like Tupperware but bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Are they good for storing, like bars and stuff in?
Yeah,
bars and-
yeah.
And also the big containers with the colored lids, they can be pink lids or
Yeah.
green lids, or those are good for storing.
Sure.
Be
Any
careful
of
with
those.
though.
What?
Be careful with those, because those sometimes might not be food safe.
Oh, yeah, you want to have it.
These plastics are food safe.
Yes, these are
They
food,
had food in them, so they're food safe.
Yes.
right. They had food in them before, so they are food safe.
The
Or
plastic-
you can buy food safe buckets at Lowe's and places like that. But you do want
How
to
long can you
have
keep something in there?
very indefinitely almost. Yeah, as long as it's well sealed.
You can get them free too from like Harding's or any place that does, if they make
Cakes and,
donuts and things
yeah.
like that,
Mhm.
or cakes, they will come, their frostings will usually come in
Yeah.
2.5 gallon.
I'm repeating it here for the,
And that's what store?
Any
store
bakery.
That makes donuts and cakes
Yeah.
and things like that, the frostings will usually come in a food safe, but it'll be a food safe bucket.
right. So what we're saying is that frostings and stuff like that, glazes and stuff that they use for donuts and cakes and stuff like that, come in like the 2-gallon buckets. They are food safe because they've had food in them, and so you can get those in those places.
The things that aren't food safe, the flavor of the plastic will leach into the food.
Yeah,
Oh,
And
Yeah.
you will know that you did something that wasn't quite right. 'Cause
Right.
It doesn't taste good.
but you do have to look for food safety. Yes,
I was
sir.
gonna say, you know, as far as a lot of these plastic containers, I mean, they should be BPA free, shouldn't they? I mean, or is that a concern?
Yeah, well, most of them will say BPA free, yes, yes. You can look for that, and that's what you can look for and make sure that you get. One other thing is, one person, a friend that I was talking to, she couldn't be here today, but she was saying, like, when she goes shopping, you know, she'll go to like Gordon Food Service and get bulk pickles or something like that in a glass jar. I wouldn't get pickles in this kind of a jar because it would, you know, keep the smell and all that, you know, but in a glass jar, it shouldn't be. And she'll use the pickles, and then she has that glass jar to be able to use for storage. So, things like that. Anybody else have questions?
I have a problem with beans after 3 or 4 years, they wouldn't, I kept them in a bucket and then they wouldn't cook, they were always hard.
Oh, really? I guess I haven't had that problem. I don't know whether I'm sure I've had them 3 or 4 years. Now, cooking beans, one is you don't want to cook them with salt until they're soft because they won't get, you know. But another thing is, and I know some people are a little bit more afraid of them, but growing up, we used a pressure cooker all the time for beans, you know, and they cook a whole lot faster. That's a good way of doing it, or of course the Instant Pots now.
Which is still a pressure cooker.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker. It's just electric, yeah. But-
That's wonderful because I can soak beans overnight or put them on the stove for, just to bring them to boil
Mhm.
and let them sit there for an hour.
Hmm.
Then pour the water off, rinse them, and put them in the Instant Pot with amount of water. And
And
half hour later, they're done.
right, right. And you don't have to. We're talking about Instant Pots and how you can soak your beans and then be able to, however you want to do it, a quick soak, bring them to a boil and soak them for an hour, or soak them overnight and then put them in the Instant Pot, and within a half hour, because it's a pressure cooker, it takes, you're done with your beans. They're nice and cooked, and they're not mushy. That's just the right, you know, a right consistency. In fact, they're a little bit better than like garbanzos. The ones in a can are sometimes a little hard, you know, if you're trying to mash them and stuff. Yes.
So, something that I kind of discovered while working at a food company a while back, was that we bought organic grains from a local, just 30 minutes down the road, they were harvested from some local farmer. And even so, when we put them in a 5-gallon bucket with water and a fish bubbler to kind of circulate, within 24 hours, the water was black. And the reason why is even if you're getting organic and all that kinds of stuff, there's stuff, we went and tested what it was, and it was pieces of rubber, petroleum, metal, insects, all from the equipment that harvested it.
Oh.
And so many of the allergies that we could get, or even small trace amounts of toxins or whatever, could still be present even in the best of foods. And so just a kind of an idea, if you want to go a little above and beyond, obviously this is not for just survival, but just maybe just getting for your grains or your beans, maybe soaking them before, if you were to dehydrate them or sprout them or do anything like that, putting them in some water with an aerator or a fish bubbler to circulate them, and you might be able to clean them that way. They might last longer that way as well.
And then I'm wondering if you could somehow dehydrate it so that
That's what
you,
we did. We would soak them and then we would dehydrate them right afterward.
right,
Yeah.
and then you can store it, yeah.
and-
So we're talking about grains. Sometimes if you soak it or put it in a container with a fish bubbler or whatever for 24 hours, or then Alex said that they found a lot of dirty water coming from it because of some of the toxins, oil from the equipment, the rubber or whatever from the equipment and things. And so if a person wants to, go the further mile to soak it like that, and then maybe dehydrate it and then store it. So, but you do have to get it dehydrated well so that it doesn't spoil on you. Yes?
Did you do you have an idea on the difference between the storage of things that are sprouted? Is that less or more, the same?
I have not done sprouted things, and so I really can't speak to that. Yeah. Yes, Kevin?
Yeah, I have found that hard-boiled eggs,
Mm-hmm.
pickled hard-boiled eggs are great to store, because in bars, if you've been in bars, they have them on
Mm-hmm.
the edge of the
Mm-hmm.
counter in the
Mm-hmm.
bar. and
Right.
They keep without refrigeration. So they're
Yeah.
good too.
Pickled, I'm sure. And then there's a way of, if you have lots of eggs, I've heard of water glassing, and I don't know too much about that, but they water glass their eggs to be able to store them longer.
Water glassing eggs, you need to have farm fresh eggs that have not been washed.
Right, farm fresh eggs that
And
have
the
not
water
been
glass,
washed.
Water glass is mixing it in a solution of hydrolyzed lime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
yeah.
But it's called water glassing. You just put your eggs in a bucket, any bucket, and they will store for up to 2 years.
Uncooked or cooked?
Uncooked. But like
If you
he
wash
said,
them- If you wash them, they're no good.
right, because there's a coating on the
Yeah.
egg, so you don't want them washed. So if you're going to use them, you want farm fresh eggs that have not been washed, that don't have a lot of junk on them,
Yeah, I noticed
Everything in the
that
grocery
an egg,
store is
a
washed.
regular egg will keep without, a dirty egg, keep a longer time.
Yeah,
than it's washed.
Yeah, something that's not washed. But of course, like James is saying, everything you get in a grocery store has been washed. So you'd have to get it from a local farmer. So, okay, well, yes.
I have one other question. Do you have any idea on, I know my mom and dad used to do grains and things like that in the glass, but they would put it in the oven at like 250 for, 8 hours, 10 hours. And then just shut it off, and then it would seal itself, and they would be good for a long time.
And it might work that way. I have heard people even canning peaches that way. It's just putting them in the oven for, I don't remember exactly how long, but that is a way of getting a seal. And so I would imagine it would be for grain too. But the only thing is, at 250, you wonder what it's doing to the grain, that it's halfway cooking it,
Well, it's gonna dry it out, and it is gonna not have as much nutrients, but if
Right.
you're looking for shelf life versus
Yeah,
being able to plant it again.
yeah.
Anyway, my neighbor across the street, she's an older lady, and she does everything in the oven.
Yeah.
I mean, like apples or peaches or whatever.
Does all her canning in the
Puts them
oven,
all in the
his
jar,
neighbor.
Puts the lids on it, puts it in the oven at 250 for like 12
Yeah.
hours, shut off the oven, leave it for another 12 hours, don't even touch it,
Right,
and then you take it out and put it on your shelves.
Yeah.
Take the lids off.
yeah,
That's
there's
that.
a lot of different ways of canning. I haven't used that one, but I'm anxious for the canning session that we're going to be doing in July. I
That
think
is not
it'll be
FDA
fun.
approved.
No, it's not FDA approved, right.
Don't give that to me if you don't like it.
Amish lady approved.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, one thing I wanted to tell you, and you probably saw the Azure Standard thing. Let me tell you a little bit more about Azure Standard. It's a company out in Oregon that has they really work with trying to get everything organic as possible. And they started out as farmers, you know, they still are farming hundreds and probably thousands of acres. But they also work with other people who grow for them. And they have all kinds of products. They have everything from, you know, food, they have frozen food, they have grains, I found my grains were cheaper there than going to Country Life, which is up near South Haven. And so I started ordering from them, and they have 2,600, and it's probably more than that, drop-off points across the United States. And so when I order online. And there's a cutoff date for your order, and then they send you an email that tells you when your pickup date is going to be, which is probably a week to a week and a half later. And you go down, I go down to, this is the closest one here, to south side of Mishawaka. And we meet in a Meyer parking lot. And the truck comes in, they tell you what time, and I tell you what, they are on time. The last time it was 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, a week ago, or this last week. And you get there, other people get there at the same time. There's somebody, the coordinator at the drop-off says, she helps organize, you know, people getting their stuff, and you know, you have 2 or 3 people at the back of the truck. He comes and he pulls everything out, and the driver, and he puts it at the back of the truck, and 2 or 3 of you, or 4, stand there and holler out names. You grab a box or a big bag or whatever, and you holler out names, and the person comes up and gets their stuff, you know, and it takes about 15-20 minutes and you're gone. And I find that it's been, you know, pretty fun experience for me. One thing I found out a couple times ago, I ordered this toilet bowl cleaner from them, and they're really big on, you know, not having harsh chemicals and stuff like that. And this one is made with, let's see, where is it? Water, citric acid from plants, alcohol, some alkoxylate, whatever, from a plant, xanthan gum from a plant. And then maybe they have, if it has fragrances, you can get unfragrant, or the fragrance is on here too. And that works, it works really good as a toilet bowl cleaner. The other thing is that every time you get an order, and you may be able to go on Azure Standard and see if they have their magazine online and get the articles, but I notice I'm not real good about reading all the articles, but I wished I had read last month's before I think I threw it away. But this is Azure Clean, and it tells about their whole line of products of dishwashing soap and, you know, laundry soap and everything. And it's all done with the same type of thing, you know, not harsh chemicals, but they concentrate it enough that they're very effective. So I'm anxious to try some more of their things. And the other thing is, in your handout with Azure Standard, one request is, if you decide to start ordering from them, there's instructions on how to get to the menu or whatever. Put my code in there. It's all right there. And I get a little discount. But, you know, you will too when you refer somebody else. So it works well. Okay, well, thank you for coming. We have some refreshments over here. And feel free to help yourselves. And we hope that you will come next time. I'm really looking forward to the garden one next time. And it'll be a privilege to have you all back. and with a friend.
Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Martha. Yay!
And thank you, all of you who came and helped set up too.